Okay, today we're going to look at the topic of tolerance, which is section 2.2 in Workplace and Apprenticeship 30. And as you can see on your screen, we are looking at tolerances, and tolerances refers to basically the allowable measures within what you're trying to do. And it depends again on what you're planning to do, but it is acceptable dimensions. And some examples are found here regarding a hinge. They got to fit just right so that they slide against each other, but they can't allow the door to tilt. When you are installing cabinets, you're going to have to consider values that you're going to measure and what's allowed and what isn't allowed. In a mine, you have different filters that the crush door have to go through. And so what are those allowable measurements when you're putting something together or when you're making something? And within that is something called the nominal value. And nominal value is almost like what's the ideal, what's the minimum or the middle value, what's that target that you're reaching for. And then once you have that nominal value, you'll also talk about minimum and maximum values. And that will be your range that's allowed, and that range that's allowed is called your tolerance or your tolerances. So let's look at an example here. This girl works as a mechanical designer. Sometimes they're called machinists. And she has a drawing of a specific device that has a tolerance of 0.020 inches right here. And the ideal value is 0.5 inches. So if we're going to write or talk about the acceptable range of measurements that are allowed, we take our nominal value, which is half an inch, and we say in this case it says if that's the midpoint, then we can add or subtract to that our tolerance, which is 0.020 inches. So that means my cuttings or the actual part has to be within a range from, if I subtract it, 0.480 would be the low, and the maximum would be 0.520 if we add that 2/100th of an inch to either of those. So that would be the range of acceptable measurements for that problem. If we look at part B, a little bit different. Oops, I want to clear the ink off here first. It's written differently. It's just written as a number one on top of the other. And what that means is you have your maximum value and you have your minimum value, and the nominal value, which we see, again, that's this term up here, will be found right in the middle. So this nominal value would be the middle between 0.25 and 0.230, which is 0.24 inches. And then if we talk about adding the tolerance to that, you can think, well, how much did it go up? Well, to go from 240 to 250 is a 10, so if I write that as a decimal value, that would be my tolerance. So nothing too hard and nothing too crazy. Another place where you're going to run into it is if you end up ever installing anything electrical. This problem is about putting in a box for a receptacle or an outlet, which is normally what we call it. And you can see the dimensions there are a little different depending on if you're talking about the actual electrical device, what sits in the box, or the box itself. And you're going to have to cut drywall to fit over the top of that. The question is, how much drywall would you actually cut out of there to make sure that you have enough room to put the outlet in? And I don't need to do that for you, but just understand that's another place where you're going to run into this. And when you do your assignment, again, make sure if you have questions that you ask. So you got a couple definitions here. You've got tolerance and nominal value. You've got the build your skills assignment. Don't forget you need to do a math on the job for this unit, as well as the history of math type activity. And don't forget as well that your review assignment needs to get done. When you get those done, you got your check done, you can go ahead and write your Unit 2 test.